We welcome our listeners today. I am your host, Art Douglas Blackshear, broadcasting live from the City of Diversity, Oakland, California. We want to give special thanks to our engineering, or Magnolia Engineering and Construction Company, for their continued support. And we congratulate them, Tammy Willis, and her website that was actually launched today. Today, show will highlight the psychology and people of color, advancement of Black women, Black business leader resources and community groups, uplifting adversely affected neighborhoods. Our guest today, we got a lineup today. We got two sisters, one who has been here for the last 2 weeks and who have lit this show up. Dr. Ashley, I'm going to take 30 seconds for you because ever since you've been on, every person who I have talked to have said that sister is bringing a very valued commodity to the business world. Keep up the good work, sister.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Our first guest, and back to reality with us on the show today, is Dr. Ashley Coleman, Department Chair, Assistant Professor of Psychology at University of the West. And another sister who's going to light it up today, her name and our special guest is Mrs. Sandra Findley, President and CEO of the League of Black Women. And let me tell you something. We've been talking about Black women from day one. So, Sandra, I want you to take that baseball bat and just knock it out of the park. Tell us what's really going on. Tell us what you really do. And we can't wait. Third, and as you all know, we have gone from 1 hour to 2 hours. So Everett Butler and I had decided to mix it up. The second half, we want to include upcoming businesses, and not just here in Oakland, but all across the country. We're going to have a website set up to outline that, just that if you have an amazing story and you want to be a sponsor for this show, we want to get your word out, and we want to let everybody know what's going on. Right now, as we all know, the dollars from the white Fortune 500 company are not flowing to Black media. And the only way we're going to get your word, your message, your business out there is have our own media, have our own broadcast of your amazing stories of how you started from nothing and you're moving up the ladder to everything. We're not going to be another Tulsa, Oklahoma. I guarantee you. Our second half is going to include, I've been making sure I got his name correct, Basim Kufu. Is that correct? I did it. I've been working on that all day. He is the president of Onyx Insulation. Our next guest will be Ken Houston, president of Beautification Council, Oakland, California. I know this brother. He ran for mayor about 2 or 3 years ago, and I know his heart. His heart is there to make a difference. Oakland, as in many other cities in this country, not this city, not this state, but this country, have been inundated with the third world look of trash and debris. About 2 years ago, we traveled to Baltimore, Little Rock, Arkansas, Atlanta, Georgia. Well, Atlanta's pretty clean. Now, I'm gonna tell you, those people in Atlanta, they're cleaning up there. New York. We need people like Ken Houston out there with his people making a difference in our community. Because a few years ago, some international people came here and they saw the degradation of some of our citizens in our streets, and it was embarrassing. So, Ken, keep up the good work. We'll see you shortly.
Thank you.
And my brother from another mother, my co-host, the man, when I see him, I say gladiator, because Everett Butler, And every time I introduce you, Everett Butler, I need a man like you riding with me, because we got too many of our people who are scared, who see a white man in power and run like a chicken.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to stop that. We're going to stand up and be men, be human, be counted. We're not 3/5 of a human. We are whole human.
Absolutely. We're going to teach
I
them how
would
to.
like to let everybody know Everett has started a new company, and the company is called Everett Butler Firm Consultant, Oakland, California.
Yes, sir.
I haven't had a chance to really look at your website, but I did take a quick glance, and let me tell you something, Everett. You are consistent with teaching people how to defend themselves when the government has their foot on the back of your neck. Everett Butler, to all you new fans out there and the audience and listeners, he fought the government 6 times and won. Most black people, and I'm going to be brutally blunt, they think if you're fighting the government or you're fighting a racist company, a Fortune 500 company, you will not win. That is not true. And Everett and I are going to contest to that each and every show. Everett, stay strong, brother, and I'll see you in the gym soon.
Absolutely. Family strong.
We would like to open up the show to our doctor of stress release, our master of getting that monkey off your back when you go home to your wife or husband and your kids, and teaching you how not only to deal with your job, but deal with taking those problems away from your home, leaving them at the front door so that you can have a healthy and happy family life. Dr. Ashley, please take it away.
Hello, family. Hello. Also,
excuse me, Dr. Ashley. Can
Yeah.
everyone mute their mic so we can get the full impact? Because that's what you're giving us. You're giving us an injection like the coronavirus. We only have to take one shot of you per show. So give us that shot, doctor. Everyone mute their mic.
hello, family, and hello to my fellow panelists. So excited to be back in this space with you all. So excited to hear, and to learn today. Over the past few weeks, again, we've been talking about stress, how to recognize that in our bodies, right? The bodily tension, how to recognize our emotions. But I've been reflecting this week on recent events and also what I believe Ms. Finley will touch on later on. And I want to talk about self-talk, right? And the reason why I want to talk about self-talk is that often our stress comes in addition from other places, expectations of others, is how we see ourselves and how we define ourselves. And one of the most empowering things we can do as Black people, but just in general, is to affirm ourselves, but first recognize what are we saying to ourselves and where do we get this information from? Okay. Last week I mentioned, and brothers, excuse me for a second, because I want to be very specific in talking about, in general, self-talk, but the strong Black woman stereotype. And I want to talk about this because, this comes out of literature, starting from Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw of intersectionality, looking at what it means to be a woman and a Black woman especially. But this intersectionality in general applies to all humans. We all adopt different roles: son, daughter, mother, father, spouse, employee, employer. And at times there's competition in those roles. And as African Americans, most recently we've seen in the news with Naomi Osaka, that when Black people want to prioritize their wellness and it impacts others financially, or when we reclaim our bodies and ourselves as first being having to honor what's best for ourselves, even if it inconveniencing others, there's an uproar. Okay. There's an absolute uproar. And so I wanted to talk a little bit again about the strong Black woman stereotype, which is this idea that Black women are tough and strong, are absolute nurturers without needs. Again, I want to say that again. Tough, strong nurturers without needs. The without needs part is the dehumanization, right? That takes away, again, as we can describe Black women in many ways, but that can take away the opportunities to ask for help, for the expectations of how to be treated, by how maybe employers view us, our needs. What type of compensation does our work deserve? Or should we be so grateful just to have a job so that we're underpaid?
May I chime in? Because you know
Mhm.
when you hit high points, I have to grab the bat. When they pitch them so good, I have to grab the bat and try. You know, I just want to let all of you out there in our audience know everything that she said. When we put so much pressure, we value the pressure of the job more than our family. Thank you, doctor, for putting a light on this. And thank you for so well articulating it, because that's what happened to me. I put more emphasis on my job and career. So I won't interrupt, but you hit that button. It made me just want to yell. Thank you.
No, thank you for that input, because I think what we realize is that our roles can be competing, right? At times we have to make various, difficult decisions, but there can be negative health outcomes. I'm always going to bring it back to that health, that wholeness, specifically looking at, for Black women, depression, self-silencing, overeating, right? And other aspects of denying oneself. Now, again, I mentioned Naomi Osaka only because there's a unique response to this sister's desire to say, you know what, I'm prioritizing my mental health over achievement, right? Withdrawing from the French Open. I am prioritizing my wellness. And there has been a collective affirming of this sister that we haven't really seen before, in the sense of in different intersections. I've worked with athletes, so sports is an industry that I'm involved in, and it's important to me. But just this collective affirming of you can choose yourself. So one of the interventions I just want to put up there based on that is work that I did. I developed a stress management program called Sisters, which is what my dissertation work was on. So SISTA stands for a strength-based intervention for African-American student athletes experiencing stress. And it's the first of its kind, and it was dedicated again to African-American female student athletes that make up the predominant population of female student athletes, yet they didn't have representation with regard to the unique stressors. And so there's this intervention called silencing the critic, right? And thinking about, often, if you think about our self-talk, where do we get these I statements or beliefs from? Whose voice? Where do we get that from? Our capabilities, our statements on what we can or can't do. Who has the power to define that? And what we find when I work with clients and when I tell my students, often people repeat the statements. They internalize statements from family members, from friends on the schoolyard. And so it's very important in the workplace, even more so if we're adults. It's not our parents or our family members' voices we're hearing. Now we're repeating it. It's our own voices. And so while we can't control what we absorbed in our environments, we can as adults. And so again, this just tying into, I ask people to tap into themselves and take a list of what are the top 3 things you've said to yourself today. And if you don't know what you've said to yourself today, then that even I challenge you to really go inward and tap into yourself, because you have said things today. You may just be going automatic, right? Right. So what are the top 3 things you said today to yourself? Looking at that, is that from you? Is that a long-standing belief about yourself? Would you speak to a loved one in that same manner? Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it safety? Is it empowering? And then eventually over time, when I'm working with people, I teach them how to restructure or challenge those thoughts to come up with affirmations. Now, this isn't turning a negative into a positive. I believe in being very honest and transparent with oneself. But I think when I think about the media, I'm so grateful for this space right now as I look at brothers and sisters right now on the screen, and I'm going to tell you why. We have a choice with the media and what we do. And I value my fellow sisters and my brothers. And I know that as a Black woman and a Black man, we could go to other channels where they may use descriptors and want to define who's high value or rate somebody on a scale of 1 to 10. And that's that infighting and division that's unhelpful for our community. So I encourage all people, but especially my brothers and sisters, to be mindful of the media that they consume, even if it's from fellow skin folk. I just want to be very clear about that. So I'm grateful for this space. So some of our stress, again, is about we can really internalize statements that really give root to very unhelpful, unhealthy views of ourselves, devaluation of ourselves, invalidation of our work, our contribution, and then most importantly, it's very dangerous to give another person the power to define you. So we can be rejected or undervalued at work, but how do we shield ourselves to not take that on from this person is lowballing me or undervaluing me to I'm unworthy? We want to disconnect that automatic thought to, again, because when we're at the workplace, when we have stress, when performance is on the line, we want to disconnect ourselves from our performance. Yes, please jump in.
Dr. Ashley, real quick, one of the things I remember when I was growing up, always seeing Ken and Barbie. What color are they? Blonde hair, blue eye. They drove the Corvettes. They won the Mr. and Miss pageant. So to me, would that be similar to what you're talking about? We see these pictures of all white people doing great things, but Black people with the Sambo and that sort of thing. Would that be similar to what you're talking about?
I think imagery is very, very important. So I do, there's the doll study, right, of Dr. Clarkson looking at children and who they're drawn to. But I think, most importantly, as children and also as adults, we look up to people, and feedback is really important. And when you trust someone and you give them an opportunity to give you feedback, how that feedback is communicated may impact how it's internalized and taken in. And I think in the workplace, and just in other spaces where there are opportunities for people to assign value or worth to us, we have to create space to understand this person is evaluating my performance. This is subjective, but they're not evaluating me. I'm a person outside of this role. I'm a person outside of this performance. I have other things that define me. And who am I giving, again, who am I giving the pin to give them power to define me? And I think it's just important. We're going to hear a lot of noise in the system. We're going to get feedback, but to think, what can we control? So some of the things we consume in media and otherwise, what are we consuming that can contribute to our stress? But then also, how are you talking to yourself? So silencing the inner critic.
Yeah, just to piggyback on what you're talking about, kind of also like we have 100-year anniversary now of the worst massacre. One of the worst massacres, actually is the worst massacre on domestic soil, is the Black Wall Street. And that whole connotation of greatness shown by us being self-sufficient, money, dollars rolling over 5 times, doing everything ourselves, and the destruction of that whole thing and the cover up of it, and the history and the knowledge base is all based on what you're saying. Us having something to hold high and us all to shoot for as a people, that was to be taken away from us for all the reasons that you're talking about. For us to define ourselves a different kind of way and to hide it, not to be talked about, and just recently that. And Paul's right in line with everything you're saying.
And thank you, Everett, for reminding me. Just as a reminder to all, we stand in remembrance of the Tulsa race massacre. That was, from my reading and just watching all the media, that was a hotel. It was a hotel there where it could have been $100 million hotel, but it was wiped off. Now we got Hilton. So the point I'm making here is, and as Everett just eloquently, and that's Dr. Ashley, we have to remember what happened, and remember we have different tools. So preach on, Dr. Ashley, preach on.
So I just, in closing, want to just really encourage all of us to be mindful of our self-talk. So want to encourage our listeners and fellow panelists to consider, just for the next couple of days, to just think of what are 3 to 5 when you catch yourself saying things to yourself. When you make a mistake, what do you say? One of the things I like to highlight for overachievers, or those that are used to excelling, is often also a discounting of the positive. We expect excellence of ourselves that sometimes in the Black community, we don't even acknowledge it. It's like, well, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. But reinforcement can go a long way. Positive reinforcement and acknowledgement can go a long way. So just encouraging all of us to be mindful of what we're consuming, and remembering that we have the power to talk to ourselves compassionately.
Dr. Ashley, if you had been my teacher, I'd have a doctor's degree too, because you pitch those balls so light, I can just sit back and just pop over the park. Thank you. I'd like to ask any of the on panelists, if you have any questions as it relates to what she just talked about. We're working with a few extra minutes here. Dr. Ashley, you are godsend. Keep doing the work. I see why you are the dean of psychology, and once again, it's like having a double shot of Hennessy. I'm chilled out. I'm mellow now.
Thank you.
Lynn, Mrs. Finley, Ken Houston. How you doing, Ken? Look like you're out there on the front lines, my brother.
You know what? Thank you for inviting me. Yep, we're on the ground. I'm out here in West Oakland on a project that we just got with Oakland Public Works. We joint venture with Oakland Public Works to address the public health and safety of the city of Oakland that you mentioned earlier. Thank you for giving me those accolades, or whatever that word is. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. Well, in our second half, you're going to lay it on us, because I saw what you did when you were out working with the city of Oakland, fighting the mayor of Oakland to address this disaster out here in regards to homelessness and the blight. I mean, it's unbelievable. So you stick around. You will be back. I'd like to give a word to our sponsor, and I'd like to say the most important thing we have going here. Thank you. Take care of all of you. Hey, what did George Jefferson say? We moving on up. Thank you, Magnolia Engineering and Construction. Magnolia Engineering and Construction, with their new webpage, launched today and announced exclusively today on our show. www.magnoliaengineeringandconstruction.com. In addition, they have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and their LinkedIn now. So check them out. And from my understanding, they've been getting quite a few calls for government and private contracts. So this show is reaching the masses. And I even think those who don't want to look at us are looking at us to see what they don't want to look at. So don't look at us, but keep looking at us. Also want to give a shout out to Donnie Glover, who produced and helped us put this Black Business Roundtable podcast show together. BlackUSA.news and BeMore.news. Donnie's also the author of a book called Unapologetically Black. And Donnie, I'm going to just say, every time I look, I'm in a crowd of white people who and let's just be honest, all of us have felt at one time or another, when you're in a crowd and you're the only Black face, that somebody's looking at you. But what chimes in my mind is that I'm unapologetically Black. Yes. So we're going to move into our next segue. I had the opportunity to meet Mrs. Sandra Finley. A cousin of mine said, Doug, you got to meet this woman. She is amazing. She is awesome. And quite a few other adjectives to describe what an impact you are making with Black women in the Black community in white America. We want to thank you for coming on this show. I tried to remember all the stuff that you did, and I got a little, you've done so much. So I want all of us to mute our mics, and Mrs. Sandra Finley, the president and CEO of the League of Black Women, national organization that has been around since 1970. You thought I didn't read it. 1970. They go up against some of the Fortune 500 companies and let them know, look, we got some sharp sisters out here. You will not turn a blind eye anymore to the talent that Black women are bringing, not only to private sector, but to government and to America. Mrs. Sandra Finley, CEO of the Black League of the League of Black Women, national organization, please take it away.
Wow. This is so exciting. And I want to thank you, Doug, for that particular introduction, because the young lady who let you know about the League of Black Women is new to my family. She married my son. Let me just tell you, so the familial connection, I love her. I'm so well daughted now. Eddie and I had 3 sons, and so the only way we were going to get a generation of women in our family was if our sons married somebody. And Lord, did Bakari marry? He married well.
I was at the wedding.
Married well.
Beautiful wedding.
I know you were. So we not only we got her and we got the family. We got the whole family along with, and that is how we grow and go. I want to talk to you a little bit about the work of the League of Black Women as it relates particularly to what Dr. Ashley has carried us to, a sense of consciousness about this. The League of Black Women was founded, as Doug said, in 1970. And I had the privilege of knowing our founder. She was a sociologist, a professor at the University of Chicago. She was a civil rights leader. She led the women's division when Dr. King came to Chicago to march for open housing. And she came from a family of people prepared for this kind of mission. Her brother was Whitney Young. And so you see, that is why I am particularly aware of the importance of family connection and foundation if you're going to take a journey to change the world. And she founded this organization, and it had an interesting purpose in 1970, and that was to pay attention and track the migration of Black women, reaching for opportunity to move up through the embrace of education, higher education. So at that point in 1970, our communities believed that if our young women went to college, our young people actually went to college, we would receive those credentials that would then allow us to the corporate careers that our parents were denied. And so we went in pursuit of those white collar jobs. And the League of Black Women was on the spot to pay attention to what that journey was and what came of it. And I'm prepared to talk to you about what's come beyond it. What came of it is that we got lots and lots of multi-generational folks through embracing higher education, any which way you could. We didn't have the money, of course, as a community, families, most didn't. And so we signed those desperate loan papers that were the student loan programs that came through the government. Anything you could sign. And then we made some of us desperate choices as to what college to go to. In my case, I was a young girl off the west side of Chicago, Baptist, and I ended up making a choice for a school that was on the north side of Chicago that was Catholic. Talk about being unprepared for the culture. I was, and the society, I was, and they were not prepared for me. And so those years in that school, the business of battling for them educating me and me educating them was what those 4 years were about. I will tell you, they were successful. I know how to learn. And I can tell you also what I did learn was at the end of my 4 years, I determined I didn't need to go to graduation because that wasn't even about me at all. At all. Instead, I hooked up with a study group that was at the neighboring college on the line. And I took a course there called The Psychology of the Black Experience. And also, the instructor there was also I would say she was a social worker, but she was a sociologist, and Abena Joan Brown. And by the end of all of that, we were in love with the concept of Africa. In love. And she thought that was just the cutest thing in the world, but not at all the substance of what a lifelong distance of rigor would be preparing us for. So she said, you can't fall in love with an idea. You need to go see Africa. So part of not being at the graduation was a choice to raise money, to get on a plane with my sisters and brother students, and we took ourselves to Africa. And I got to take a little second here. The business of raising money was something we'd not ever done before in the formal way. But as you mentioned Tulsa, we had here in Chicago a whole society of Black business owners, Supreme Life Insurance Company, some of the others that you know. And I remember sitting across the table, the desk of the great owner of president of Supreme Life Insurance Company, and asking for a donation. And he says, what do you want to do with this money, young woman? And I said, we're going to Africa. He said, you are? Huh? I said, yes, sir, we are. And we had a little bit more of a chat. And he reached for a checkbook and wrote a check to help us get to Africa. And it went like that, where we went to see people we normally would not be able to see or have any reason to think that we needed to reach for, but we reached for them and took ourselves to Africa. And I got all the money that I needed for my portion except for $300.
Wow.
Except for $300. And you know where I turned to for that last $300? To my boyfriend, Eddie Finley, who I met at the senior skating rink, the YMCA. I'm sorry. And I asked this working young man if I could borrow $300. And he said, yes. And now as we're getting ready to celebrate our 50th wedding anniversary next year, every now and then he'll mention, thank you very much, about the $300. And I said, I gave you 3 sons. I think we can consider this debt paid in full, in which case he always smiles at that. He's got deep dimples and we'll fall in love again. So connecting back to Dr. Ashley, the importance of self-care for the rigor of the multi-generational journey that Black people are and have been on is important. I'm looking here, right here on my desk, at a copy of the book I'm sure many of you spent some time with, Cast, by the great Isabel Wilkerson. And when she talks about the 1921 riot of Tulsa, when she describes exactly what you said, that in 1921 riot in Tulsa, Oklahoma, a mob leveled the section of town that was called Black Wall Street, owing to the Black banking, insurance, and other businesses clustered together and surrounded by well-kept brick homes that signaled prosperity. And this is the line that I want you to pay attention to with me. She says, these were burned to the ground and never recovered. And here, 100 years later, we are surrounding ourselves with our own thoughts about the reality that we have not ever recovered. We have made do. We have healed up, sort of, but we have not recovered. And that is what's in front of us to do today, these years. So the League of Black Women to the business of recovering. First, as Dr. Ashley tells us, we take a look at who we are recovering, and we've been wounded. And we are walking wounded. And we've created a psychology around the idea of ourselves, as she said, strong Black women. And that's problematic. Because if what you bring to the game is your strength, sooner or later there will be a brick, a burden that will simply be more than your strength can bear, if that is all you have. So the League of Black Women looks at the journey ahead, and we determine that what's needed is the evolution to the higher state of being powerful Black women. You see, and when you are powerful Black women, you are able to leverage the power of resources. It's not just all on you and your little shoulders. It's everybody and everything that you can reach for, that's connected to. And that's why I was able to get Ed to give me $300 because I was powerful. And I powerfully accessed his pockets. and Supreme Life Insurance, it wasn't ever all about me, but it was about the power of my community. So as I've talked a little bit more, I'm going to ask you to consider that I'm discussing now the prospects of the powerful Black woman. Those are our powerful little dogs in the background. I'm so sorry about that. So now we're looking at the powerful Black woman and what she's doing in the modern times. I talked about her making a decision to go to college and get educated, and that's a multi-generational thing that we do. And then going into these corporations to see what our career possibilities might be, and we have done that, and done it well as it could be done, and determined that no matter how hard most of us work, we would not receive the promotions that we deserved in exchange for our contribution to the wealth that these corporations have brought to the table. As a result, yes.
Ms. Fenner, can I ask you a question? And I'm sure
yes.
everybody on this, all these fine, strong brothers out here in this, and Dr. Ashley, how can one help the League of Black Women be more powerful? Because I'm listening to you, what you're saying, and the powerful work that you're doing. So I want you to add that into the mix before you get off, because I want to send you a donation just listening to you talk about improving the interaction with our sisters as it relates to these Fortune 500 companies, because Kamala Harris has demonstrated that we are ready for leadership, and we're ready for the ultimate leadership. I mistakenly said earlier she was the president. I had to correct that at the next show, but Kamala Harris could not, or President Biden would not have been elected if it wasn't for the power of the sister vote.
Of the sister vote.
Lay it on us, sister.
So here's where we are now. We've gone beyond the ultimate goal idea of working for these corporations, and now you may know that Black women are opening up businesses at a faster, higher rate than any other demographic in the United States of America. We have determined that what we want to do requires that we have the CEO and ownership share. And so that is what we are doing. And the League of Black Women's work to support that is to track and document the journey along the way. And at the same time, because you should think of the League as kind of a scout ship as well ahead of the mothership organizations. And our job is to see before others have to get there what will be required in advance of the journey. So what we have seen is that my sisters are opening up these businesses. These businesses don't grow when they don't scale. And most of us are in micro businesses instead of the size and of business that we really need in order to do what we set to do. So the League of Black Women is now working to build an accelerator.
Can you explain micro, small, mid-range, mid-large, and large business? Because some people think that they're making $1 million a year, they're doing a big business. Can you just expand on that, please, for a few seconds?
Sure. Well, most of our businesses, believe it or not, are really under $500,000 in annual revenue. And that's the micro. Now, the mid-sized enterprise that we're looking at is doing 10 million and up annually.
Now you're talking. Now you're talking.
In revenue. And so that's how we have to do. We have to get from the 500,000 around to the 10 million, at least and up. And then we're at mid-size. And let me tell you what comes with mid-size, which is why the League of Black Women's Accelerator is being built to support a migration of women, not just one or two or every now and then, but we want to produce these kinds of enterprises like Ford makes cars off off the line. Now, what happens is when a woman is able to head an enterprise of that size and scope, she's able to funnel opportunity, and middle-class wages to the workers of our community. All right? That's important. The business model is not going to be sustainable if what you have is all the money at the top and then the people who actually work underneath the top at subsistence wages. We want her to run an enterprise that has the impact to help us leave poverty. Black people cannot be America's poor people anymore.
Absolutely.
We just can't. We have to up out of that like folk up out of Egypt. We got to all go. We have to all go and leave that. So the accelerator, which is our particular initiative right now, is what the League of Black Women is working to build. And what its job is to take Black women who currently own enterprises, take a good look at her, and then say, you are amazing. The problem is that your enterprise is not substantial enough for what it is that you need to lead. Therefore, we will put you in a bigger business, and we will do that through merger and acquisition, which means that she will buy a business bigger than herself, bigger than the one that she has. Now, if you saw,
may I say something real quick, Mr. Finley?
You're right. I need to stop.
No,
Yes.
no, oh no, I don't want you to stop. See, that reminds me of Magnolia Engineering and Construction. Let me be clear to the audience out there. And this is a brutally blunt live show. The white man does not want to teach the Black person how to build a long, strong, powerful, economically viable company. They don't want to teach you how to do that. So what we would like to do on this show and expand it out is to aim companies that say they can't find. And you hear that. That's here in Oakland. We're building a couple projects here, which my position with the Oakland East Bay Democratic Club, I'm going to slam the politician who allowed this company to get federal dollars and not using any Black people in a area in Oakland. But we need to start encouraging these companies to partner up with these women in CEO positions, because you don't have to teach us. Give us the book. We'll learn it ourselves. We can watch, we can learn, but you can't learn without association. So you tell us what we need to do. Thank you.
Well, the good news is, behind where you've just taken us at, is that the legal research shows that we already know. You see, there was a little detour in our migration where the presumption is that the reason that we didn't have more is because we didn't know enough. But when I talk to you about the Black women who serve all over this world and in this country, in places where she is the manager, but not the leader, but she's actually doing the thing, doing the thing. We are simply not allowed or encouraged or both to own what it is that we do.
And she's not making the money. She's not making the money that the white guy would make.
Precisely, and that is the thing that will continue to bring the enforcement of consistent starvation, if you will, or the anemia of not quite being, healthy enough to go the distance of where we got to go. But Black women already know how to do this stuff. What we are doing now with the accelerator is that we are putting her in the game. That's its intent, to put her in the game at the level that is, I would say, deserving of what she brings to the table. To your point earlier about Vice President Kamala Harris, we, according to my notes here, 94% of Black women voted for a woman to be President of the United States of America. Okay? When we look at Kamala, we see a sister who says, I got next. And we put her in position to ascend to where we really needed and wanted her to be. And we put her in partnership with a man who says, I understand, and I got this. This is what we're going to do. So we brokered a deal that will deliver what it is in the way of leadership that we want. What we're looking at also, though, is what good would that be if she arrives as president of the United States without the rest of us in place as presidents of all sorts of important companies?
Absolutely.
You see, we must arrive together, and we must have the economic force that it takes in order to define our own destiny. So, finally, what I want you to know is that the League of Black Women's understanding of what it is that must be done and that we understand that we're ready for it, and that we embrace what Dr. Ashley talks about self-care, and we anchor that in the League of Black Women's value for joyful living. What would be the point of all of this if we don't live every day in a spirit of well-being and health, and with the capacity to care and love and be loved? All of that needs to be what's happening here in what is the next migration of where Black women are going or already gone. Our final job here for me to bring to those of us clustered here on this evening is to say that we don't need to ask permission. We already got this. We simply need to do deals. We simply need to do deals. And then the deals we need to be can't be the desperate deals of any deal will do. You got to do an excellent deal. So there's an old movie called Cool Runnings.
Can you expand on that, Doctor? That we
about the Jamaican bobsled team.
We
already have it.
Finley,
I'm going to give you that. I'm going to give you that.
Okay.
I'm going to give you that right now. So we already have it because we were made, multi-generationally made for these times, times such as this. All right? We're already there. In the discussion with Cool Runnings, the Jamaican bobsled team already had the talent. They simply needed to be let into the competition. And they did. They trained, they learned, they did what they needed to do. And the reason they didn't win is because the raggedy bobsled fell apart. You're about to stop going to business with raggedy bobsleds. They will fall and fail you every time. And then there's one more sports story. Seabiscuit. The lovely thoroughbred Seabiscuit who won, the Triple Crown and all like that. But nobody expected for him to win because he didn't look like the other thoroughbred horses. And they didn't expect that he would win. But the deal is, after he won and was successful, and he died, and the autopsy was performed, they found that his heart was bigger than any other thoroughbred horse's heart, which means inside his body, there was the ability to pump energy that would allow him the kind of speed that other horses simply weren't capable of. So the minute he put his 4 feet on any racetrack, he was already a winner. If the jockey didn't get in the way, if the trainer didn't get in the way, if the owner didn't get in the way, he was prepared to win and run. When all of those things came into place, then he was already ready to win. We are ready to win. We need a society that gets out of our way and helps what the full possibility is. Now, how hard is that to do? Very hard, because even after we succeed, even after we lift, carry, transform, and are successful, and perform 3 somersault twirls in the air that nobody else has done. Thank you, Simone. Right. And they look at us and they still can't give it the recognition. Therefore, we have to stop seeking other people's recognition. You got to know who and what you are before you get there.
That's right. Yes.
Carry that with you. And I'm saying that the League of Black Women represents business owners who are excellent. We simply need to give them the proper vehicles that they deserve in order to run the race that they are set to do. And then we need to watch out and see what we do in order to transform the world. And people who want to help that are welcome to help. People who don't want to help this will know that we're going to have to run over you.
Absolutely.
Can I say something?
You are in the way.
Can I say something? Can I say something, Mrs. Finley? Let me just say this. And this is to maybe not to the Black. And first off, let me give acknowledgement to Mr. Lynn Turner of CRC Construction Resource Center. I got my certificate.
All right, thank you for that, Doug. Thank you.
Okay, but I would like to say this to the 2 women who are on this panel, and I say this from the bottom of my heart. What can we Black men start to do or continue to do or learn to do to not be jealous and envious and a roadblock and a detour and a log in this that's clogging up the dam? Because I talk to a lot of sisters, Dr. Ashley, because I've even asked her, on several shows. There are men who, and unfortunately back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, our fathers stuck this glue like masculinity in our head to say that don't let your woman do better than you. What advice can you give men who are blocking their women's blessing? We need to get that out to these men. And that's what I love about my brother Everett. When he was going through his situation with the Navy, and from what you said, your woman, you cannot make it as a unit of two if one is jealous of the other. And I almost put the middle finger up. If one is jealous of the other.
We can't make it as a people if we don't come together. It's not about, if you don't understand that, you're not getting the point, and you don't understand the fight. We as a unit are great. None of us as individuals can take care of anything. We can do our due diligence and do simple things, but true power and true change come from unity, come from bringing in your forces, come from networking and pulling together and forming a consortium, whatever it is. You have to understand that. And the last thing you could be is jealous, or you should want, I want the most powerful woman in the world by my side, the most powerful. And I mean, the most powerful. And I'll have no problem. And I'm gonna support her, and I'm gonna push her and be happy for her and be thankful that she by my side and that we a team and working together.
Exactly. Exactly.
That is just, they just don't, I mean, that's beyond stupid. That's beyond not understanding what it's about. Beyond.
It's ignorant. No, it's downright ignorant.
Absolutely.
And this show is about that, because Black Business Roundtable podcast show is about business, Black, woman or male. And I'm so sick of my brother saying, man, my woman make more money than me, man. I feel less than a man. Look, go home and wash the dishes, clean the house, mow the lawn, feed the dog. But quit being a roadblock. And if you don't like it, let her find somebody who will appreciate her and take her to where she needs to go. And I'm putting it out there. Come whoop me.
Absolutely. I don't even know why a woman would be with a man like that in the first place. That's if a woman even had a person.
Wait. I got this. I have to stop my brothers, because this man that you are describing here is not who most of our men are doing.
Absolutely.
Our brothers, it's just not who they are.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
It's really not. I mean, most of our brothers, if they were who and what they need to be, we wouldn't even be here. You know, you have to look at what look at the outcome and say what caused that to be. And I will tell you, I remind you rather than what caused that to be. Eddie Finley caused that to be. He said, "Here's $300. I think you're real cute. Go do what you want to do." All right. and when I married him, let me tell you, and when I married him, and we got married on one of those weekend marriages, where you work on Friday and you get married on Saturday and you honeymoon on Sunday, you got to go to work on Monday. One of those. And so there I am, newly Mrs. Eddie Finley, and I'm just stretching and going, I don't think I'm gonna go in today. And he said, "Well, you got to go." He said, while he was putting his stuff on, he said, "No, you got to go to work." But he says, "But you are married to me now. You don't have to stay anywhere where they mean to you." Right. Do you know what I mean?
You sound like you married one of the few. Thank you for
I know. I married one of the many. And in the light of that, his sons are those kind of people. They don't brace themselves against the accomplishments of their women. What they do is they don't. What they do is they brace themselves against the vision of their own ambition.
Absolutely.
And when there's money in household, depending on who's bringing in what, that's household money.
Household money.
Household money.
Yeah. Money.
Well,
Can I say something? I think this is so beautiful, and I think it's a testament to what's happened generationally. Because what you're saying, Mrs. Finley, and I've taken notes. You're just blowing so hard. I'm so excited. But I think what Doug is mentioning, to be honest, as a graduate of Howard University, where I saw some of the most brilliant and Black male minds and female minds, and wow, it was an amazing time. The ratio were 15 women to 1 man.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Wow.
And there were 15. I know, Everett, you're thinking about Morehouse now. Huh? Yeah, Morehouse.
Yeah.
It was 15 to 1. And so over time, when I came back to California, so it was healthy competition in the classroom, because as much as Howard people enjoyed themselves, boy, you had to be on it in the classroom, because you would be embarrassed. And, our professors were not giving us any slack. They didn't care if homecoming was on Friday. On Monday, you need to know and read this chapter.
That's real
But
tough.
when I came back to California and moved, again, I came back to Oakland, was there for a year before I relocated to Los Angeles, where I've been almost 15 years. I have to let you know, I have met some wonderful brothers in Southern California. Please don't at me. However, for me, they can't don't at me. For many of my sisters who are powerhouses across this is a conversation. This is a situation where there can be insecurities as one, and not thinking about being a unit, and that things and people grow in different seasons, that this may be my time now, but you're planting seed and you're going to bloom as well. And so as I cheerlead for you, I want you to cheerlead for me. That has been so I think there's something that's maybe lost that we can regain and talk about how. So it's refreshing to hear about that. I know my parents have that, and again, different generations, but there is something happening with our older millennials where boy, it can get really rough, where it's like, girl, I'm holding them down. I'm not asking about bill. I'm being encouraging, but I got this offer. And then it's like, well, I got to call you for the support about the offer I got versus how do I tell them I'm up for a promotion? There is something, don't want to go off into, but there is something I think.
Now, to that point, the League of Black Women looked at why it was more difficult to meet and marry over the generations for Black women, and first there's the data, but simply say that for Vietnam War, we had a disproportionate number of Black males in the military. At that point, we had more Black men trying to do and be and grow and using the military as a path forward than we could afford to invest as a community. And when the Vietnam War, which was, just a horribly handled war, decimated, they've actually put a hole in our community that we have never recovered from.
Mm-hmm.
Right? All right. And then next generations add mass incarceration as a business.
Real.
And again, the harvest has been more than we could afford to contribute in terms of whatever. So what you're looking at right now is what happens when massive numbers of a particular part of the population simply are removed.
It's by design.
From the society, by design and by the society. But at the same time, we can look at, sometime the process on another day. I simply want to mention it. But the reality for Dr. Ashley or the women that she's described here is whatever caused it means that we don't have the access to the array of choices that we would have had in some previous generations. And that is real, and that must be respected. So here's what is essential. While while we're replenishing our stock, if you will, people, I gave her 3 of them out there in the world. And then the son has two sons, and then Bakari, who married Alita, has another son. We're making boys again and making men, and learning more about how to protect them all the way through their maturation, to make sure that they don't get. But this, I want to leave you on this, and we'll come back on another time, hopefully, and talk about.
Oh, you'll be back. You'll definitely be back.
This is heavy shooter drop. What you must do, what sisters must do, is we must hunt. we must make excellent choices. We must be intentional and make excellent choices, and look for things that were not all of that in a way of important before. But right now, his well-being, his sense of self, his capacity and ability to cherish and love you, and all of that have to run up front. We will make money.
Yes, indeed.
But making love and life is something that has to be built into him by whoever that was who birthed and raised him up. And if it's not there, it is not your business to put it in place. You must make another choice. You look really cool, but I need to make another choice.
Mrs. Finley, your connection is kind of breaking up, but let me just...
Sorry.
No. Let me be clear, because we're running close to time. Let me be clear that you and Dr. Ashley have opened the eyes to many, many men. And I hear what you said, that you don't hear a lot of that, but I hear what Dr. Ashley say. I hear a lot of it, and she's out there with her girlfriend. And I just want to make it clear to our young men our middle-aged men, and even our older men who are looking for a person to close out their highlights of their life. Support your woman, support the sister, support your cousin, support your niece, support your in non-traditional area, because from what I've seen out here, as Mrs. Finley so eloquently said, Black women, if you want to double your money, bet on a Black woman-owned business. You can't be much clearer than that.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Finley, we want to thank you for joining our show today. And please stick around if you have time. We are going to go into a small break. And we want to give Mrs. Finley a round of applause. The president.
Absolutely. Great job. Great job.
President and CEO of the League of Black Women, Sandra Finley. Thank you for joining the show. I would be remiss if I didn't give praise to God for bringing us here today and giving me the strength to. I have to give kudos to Dr. Philip Harris. Thank you. Philip Harris is from Oakland, California. He has composed the musical intro for Magnolia Engineering and Construction, one of the few Black woman-owned engineering construction in the nation. And they've been getting a lot of calls looking to work with them. So that's a good thing. Mr. Phillip has composed the musical intro and heard by all the listeners today. I gave a sneak peek last week. Dr. Phillip has performed at the esteemed Carnegie Hall as a soloist. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And then he is an author, and he's also a member of the Kappa Alpha Phi fraternity.
Kappa, huh?
Yes, he's a Kappa. And let me tell you something.
I'm an Alpha, so I got it. It's all good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's all good.
Well, let me tell you, I've known Philip all his life, and he has. I've heard him sing at several operas. And for those of you who are not afraid of or insecure of your masculinity, when I've gone there, he's been the only brother, and sometimes the only male or out of female or male or female who's out there being a baritone, and the brother's amazing. I start going, Lord. But we need to get our people in more areas that are in non-traditional, and Dr. Philip Harris has definitely broken into that field. His website is https at philiplnharris.com. Please check him out. The brother can blow, and I've seen him at several of the local operas, and he's amazing. And it's good to see some person of color in a non-traditional area.
Yes, sir.
Also want to thank once again Mr. Donnie Glover of the Black USA News and BeMoreNews.com. And be sure to tune in to Sister Biz with Nicole and Tamara Brown. Tamara was helped me get acclimated into this broadcasting field. My first show, I don't know if you guys had a chance to see it, but I was extremely nervous. And I froze up, and she just stepped right in. It goes to the sister power. She stepped in and pulled me out. And when she pulled me out of the water, I've been swimming ever since. So thank you, Tamara Brown of Sister Bed. It airs on Wednesday night at 6, I believe it's Eastern time. Also, Black USA Crypto News with Kamal Hubbard. Now, this brother, he is the San Mateo County Transit District Civil Rights Officer. I met him when I was out promoting getting Black women-owned businesses and Black business. He has done a successful reaching out in San Mateo County, and that's in California, to make sure that all African Americans have a fair chance at this $1.9 trillion that's soon to be breaking off at July 1st of this year. Also, we are ready to step into the second half of the show. We're 5 minutes late. And you all need to know this. Kim Harris. She works, she's a consultant with Magnolia Engineering and Construction. She's worked with Everett Butler to put his page up. And she's also working with me to stay on script. And that's like tickling the bear in the belly. So thank you, Kim Harris. I'm new at this, but she has definitely made it easier for me to organize and to present content that is going to reach out and touch people who look like Dr. Ashley, Mrs. Sandra Finley, Everett Butler, Basim Kufu, Lynn Turner, and myself. When you watch the 2, 4, 5, 7 at 11, you will not see anything like this. So we're going to take it away and move on to Mr. And I just want you to know this is our second show where we're doing, instead of an hour, 2 hours. And Everett, thank you for bringing to my attention of how we should break this up. And that's why there's no I in team. Thank you, brother Everett. I'm gonna see you at the gym, but I'm up in the hills chopping wood, so I don't let you brothers make me look too bad. And you know what I'm talking about if you see my Facebook page.
Gladiators only, man.
Gladiators only.
Gladiators only. Yes, sir.
We are entering into the second hour of the Black Business Roundtable podcast show. This is our 5th week, folks, and we're going to start having Black businesses. We want to highlight Black businesses and do the opposite of what McDonald's is doing to Black businesses. And I'm going to put that out there before we get started. McDonald's pays their CEO $11 million a year. But you know how much money they put into Black advertisement? Total, $5 million. So McDonald's thinks it's more important to put $11 million into one person, but $5 million into other Black community organization, Black advertisement, et cetera, et cetera. So when you go to McDonald's, you think about that. Invest in Black so we can come back. Let's head over into the next segment, which will be introducing Mr. Basim Kufu, president of Onyx Insulation. The Onyx Insulation Company installs residential and commercial building insulation with a focus on specialty and commercial mechanical, HVAC insulation, and fire stop in the Bay Area, Alameda County, Northern California, United States. We want to throw your kudos out there, brother. And we also want to let our audience know, because we have Mr. Lynn Turner of CRC, Construction Resource Center. The Onyx Insulation Company has been able to build capacity by utilizing resources from Construction Resource Center. Mr. Kufu, can you explain to us in your own words your business and how you're going to make an impact and how we're going to highlight you on this show? So when you get to those big commercial projects, you can look back on this broadcast show and say, you know what? I'm gonna spend my advertising dollar where it counts, on the Black media. Take it away, sir. Thank you.
Well, Doug, thanks for having me. Lynn, Latanya, thanks for inviting me on here as well, especially being the first one from CRC. I feel special. And so basically, I definitely plan on spending some dollars here, getting some advertisement, spend my money with Black people. That's the whole point of Onyx. That's the whole goal, is to be able to spend money with Black people and also put money in Black folks' pockets so they can spend money with Black people. And CRC, Lynn Latanya have made it possible. I actually started in their class as a worker. I was on the tools as a union member, Local 16 Heat and Frost Insulators. And I was really, really wanting to start my own business, get into construction on the owner side. And with the tools that they provide, the resources they provide, they literally walk you through all of the different steps. You know, it doesn't matter if it's negotiating the contract, your proposals, I mean, even something as simple as who to reach out to. I mean, they pretty much walk you through it and give you all of the resources. I mean, I'm literally, go ahead.
I always have to chime in when you hit a high note. I explained on, I think it was our first show, that CRC, and you look like a young brother because I'm 58 and you look like you half of my age, and I'm always interested in seeing our young brothers out there making a difference, owning. Don't be a worker, be an owner.
Exactly.
So I want to piggyback off of what you just said. CRC, Construction Resource Center, this brother is articulating exactly what you're doing, and he's doing a great job. So keep up the good work, man. And let me tell you, the stuff that he has done is in the industry of construction is legendary. We had Fred Jordan on, the president of the San Francisco African American Chamber of Commerce, who gave him his accolades, and I want to give them to him too. Thank you, Len. That program is invaluable. I'm gonna shut up now.
Thank you. No, it's true. It's invaluable. I mean, it's literally changed my life, and it's going to change the lives of everybody in my life too. I was on the tools in 2017. I was working, and in 2018, I decided to incorporate, go into business, and here we are today, three going on 4 years later. And I'm on my way to $1 million in sales. And so that's literally thanks to Construction Resource Center. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Basim. And what we're doing is we're promoting everything that everyone's just said here, getting back to that entrepreneurial spirit. That's what we're pushing. So you may work for someone because you need to learn the ins and outs. But at the end of the day, having your own, building and purchasing property, that's what's going to give us our power back. We have to own, we have to build, we have to be together. It's teamwork. That's another thing we teach in our class. If you look at any company, if they could do it by themselves, they would. They don't because they can't. Teamwork is key. We have to figure out how we work together and how we trust each other. Right now, it's really not quite there yet, but we're trying to get there. And that's what's good about this program here. We're trying to figure it out, and we have to start somewhere. And so with the Construction Resource Center, we knew we had to start somewhere because when we started in construction years ago, we didn't have any help. When I grew up in the 60s and 70s, we had tons of contractors. It was a huge amount of successful Black people in Oakland. We owned just about everything. I don't know too many families that didn't own their house, that didn't have some type of legal side hustle. Oh, go ahead.
Lynn, I'm glad you said that in the 60s and early 70s, because Everett and I talked to a gentleman by the name of, Edward Walters, out of New York, Harlem, New York. He enlightened us that the reason why Blacks had so much opportunity was because of Nixon. That's why he was put out of office. I don't know how true that, because I'm doing some research on that. But it seemed somewhere after that, the decline of Black economic building of your own businesses, it fell apart in the 80s and 90s. And now with the pandemic going on, man, we have to almost have a whole new reconstruction going on. But I wanted to chime in on that because in the 60s and the 70s, in Oakland, you would walk down East 14th. That's in Oakland, now International Boulevard. That's part of probably.
Right, exactly.
Then you got come down MacArthur, you would see mom and pop stores, grocery stores, cleaners. It is like
and we owned them.
Yeah,
we
That's the
owned
key.
them. Yes,
We owned them. We
and we
operated them.
patronized them.
We had trades. We had trades in the schools that taught you. They got you ready for it. I mean, it's a whole different thing going on. The other thing is, in my opinion, our modern also Oklahoma was crack. So when they introduced crack, that set us back again because we were kind of on our way back.
Who brought
Crack
that?
came in, set us back again.
Wait a minute. As New Jack City said, we don't own no plane. We don't own no boat. How you think that crack got here? It was put in our community to destroy it, and it's a travesty to what happened. But I had to get that out there because I'm telling you, Lynn, you and I grew up in the same neighborhood, graduated in Everett.
Yeah.
It destroyed the vision of being our own people, and it was by design. And the sad thing about it is, they say what goes around comes around. Look at crystal meth, how it's tearing up them young white kids. So all I can say is the rooster has come home to play or pluck or whatever they call it. But the crack had just destroyed our community back in the 80s and the early 90s.
And just to say something, what you guys were talking about, you're talking about the white community, black community, and drugs, fentanyl, crank, all of that stuff. With the white kids, what's going on right now? You see how the government is treating that. You see how they going after that. They're not going after the dealers. They're going after therapy and healing and trying to help it because it's happening to mainly white people. You know, crack epidemic, because it was urbanized and this and that. They were just going after, if somebody had a rock or two of crack, they put them in jail. They was going about criminalizing and putting people in jail, not offering help, not offering rehab and trying to rehab people and get them off. That wasn't their intentions. Totally different. Just true. The systemic racism over and over again in so many different areas of our society and community, things that we constantly, hurdles we have to jump, things we have to overcome. It's just so many things because the crack did uproot so much of our promise with people, so many smart people that I know that were so intelligent, had so much promise, good careers, and that derailed them. That derailed them and got them off track. That's another whole nother story, but a deep story. And it bothers me just thinking about it.
It is. So thank you guys. Thank you, Doug, for having us on. Doug, see if Ken is available. He's trying to get back in, I think.
Okay.
And so one of the reasons we came up with the Construction Resource Center was to give back to the community, help build us back up again, give these trade secrets away that they've been holding on to for years. And when we were excluded, because Black people used to run the union, the trades, they looked to us for the trades, and now we're not even in the trades. We can't even find youngsters who really want to participate in construction. And so what we teach is the business side of construction. So we're saying, don't worry about the brick and mortar. Let's get in on the business side, because that's typically what causes us to go out of business. When you're trying to transition from residential to commercial, that learning curve and all that paperwork seems to take us under. So with the Construction Resource Center, we have the process, we have the paperwork. We've been through just about, you name it, any issue in construction, we've been through it. So we've taken that and put the best practices for construction in place so that whoever wants to learn it, come and get it. No ties to us. You want it, we're going to give it to you. We just want you to do something positive with it. That's what Construction Resource Center is about.
Mrs. Finley, can everyone mute your mic? Mrs. Finley, can you chime in on how you think more training for our future queens that are coming that you're training? CRC, they have a Construction Resource Center. And the thing I know from personal experience, I've worked with Lynn on hundreds of $1 million projects. The system is set up and designed so that Black people can Okay, let me give you the bigger picture. When they have these government contracts that they're supposed to have 10 to 25% minority participation on it, and I'm going to be brutally blunt because this is my show. The big white corporations, they have it set up so they walk in to saying, hey, we got 5 to 10 black people starting with us. I'm proposing, it's starting here at the city of Oakland, the county of Alameda, California, and the United States, stop giving those big white corporations the incentive at the beginning of the contract. Tell them when you have 20% minority participation, when you get that last check, then you get that last bonus check. But until you do that, they will walk you into the door, front door, and kick your beep out the back door. Am I lying, man? Can you speak on that too? Because we can have a whole show on these
Yeah, no. I mean, no, you're not lying, and most of us already kind of know that. And Basim can talk to that. We just worked through, in my opinion, a racist contract just this week, and I don't know what the outcome was, but right now, when the companies go out to do their what do you call that? Their search for minority contractors. They come back saying that
So-called
they
due
can't
diligence.
find them, they can't do this. Oh, what are you gonna say about Sim?
So-called due diligence.
Yeah, that's it. So-called due diligence. And if they want to find us, they can find us because it's not that many of us around anymore. And so it's the same pool that everyone seems to pull from. And if they want to destroy you, they can. And when we started, we didn't really know that. We thought the larger companies was out there to help us. But if you talk to someone for a couple of minutes, you know if they can handle a certain size project or not. And so we were getting all these large projects. We thought that was a good thing. So just because you have a lot of business doesn't mean you're going to stay in business. Typically, that puts you out of business because you don't have enough capital to make it work. And they know that. You don't have enough labor. You can't afford the labor. And so when you go from residential to commercial, you're used to holding, let's say, 50,000, 100,000. You can do that pretty much no problem. But when you start to get on the 30 and $40 million and you're trying to float $2, $3, $4 million, and then somebody misses a payment and stretches you out another 90 days, and you still have to keep your payroll and your office moving, how do you do that? They know you can't do that. They know that's not sustainable. So what? Go ahead, Doug.
No, I was gonna say that's how they set black businesses up. They come in there, we're gonna help you. They get you way, it's like swimming from the port of Oakland to San Francisco port. They get you halfway out there, and then once they've gotten all their bonus money, all their federal government, because they get a percentage of for using minority and black women-owned and businesses. When they get you halfway out there in the ocean, they take away your life jacket, the boat. They put what do you call that? Cement shoes on you, and they say, "Have a nice life." I have done a little research. There's a brother in Chicago. There's also a business who talks about a construction site that had racism, Clark Construction, out here in California, and they were doing it in Chicago, and they're also doing it down in Florida. We need to come together because Clark Construction, 60% of their business is government contracts. So the government is helping Clark Construction put black people out of business. Does that make sense?
Can I add? Doug, can I add something to
yes,
also to the table of our options? And if we have construction companies, which we do, and black women own construction companies as well, and brothers do. If when we enter into those deals where we become the subcontractor, then essentially we have just said yes, okay, we'll be the workers. You see, and then all of the difficulties that come with that kind of relationship are become part of our reality. But what's exciting? What's exciting is that because we do have construction companies, the next level. This is league think now. The next level is to become developers.
Right. Exactly. Yep. And I'm
All right.
Lynn Turner.
When we become developers,
Right.
it's a
I'm glad you
different
I'm
deal
glad you
altogether.
said that.
You are prime. When we are the developers, then you take the resources of our construction companies, the resources of our architecture, everything, and we started to design the deal to our advantage.
I'm glad you said that, Mrs. Finley. We need to become the owners, the developers, meet the masters of our destiny. And the way you do that, because all these big time companies, whether they be private or public traded, they do a large percentage of government contracts. And that loops me back around to, if you don't vote, you want to be a slave. Let me say that very clear, and I want to be clear on it. If you don't exercise your vote
Real
to get
talk.
city council, to get mayors, to get Alameda County Board of Supervisors, or whatever county you in. And let me be clear when I say that. When I was going through my legal thing, Everett, we met with the county supervisor and gave him all the information. And you know what? Found out later he was on their payroll. So the point I'm making here is, if they are a politician, they cannot be one without the black vote. The black vote puts you in office or takes you out. We need to start taking these Uncle Tom and Mrs. Uncle Toms out of these political positions where they're getting paid, but the constituents are getting played. I'm sorry, I got carried away. Go ahead.
So I agree with that. And the end game for the Construction Resource Center and what we teach is development, is building your own, is buying your own property. We got to start somewhere. We got to get the structure in place. We have to get these institutions to give us money, because in development, one of the main reasons why we're not the developer is because it's a lot of upfront money. And so when you develop a property, you can buy some land. And where does that money come from? You have to get it entitled. Where does that money come from? You have to get the plans done. Where does that money? So you have to have all this upfront money to get to the point where it's shovel ready. Before nothing has happened over there. And then now you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to get it to that point. Now you need to raise some money to build it. So what we teach in there is some of those trade secrets to get you to that point, because we've done all of that as well. We've lost money, we've made money. So we have all of the ins and outs. Anything you want to know about construction that you shouldn't do and you should do, you need to talk to us, because we've done it.
Lynn, let me ask you a question real quick. Like when I got over $1 million in sales and service, I went to the bank, had all my receipts, contracts, and when you're down at the middle level, talking to people look like you and me, they're like, wow, you guys are you on that project? Oh yeah, we're gonna get it for you. Then they step it up to that white man. Now, I'm not going to even tell you my story, Lynn, but I know you guys were doing in the millions and tens of millions. When you went to the bank and you had a contract for 5 or 10 million in your hand, and you went to the lower level black people with getting the funding, and then they said, wow, this is great. Then when they kicked it up to the next office, tell them what happened, and let me see if you have the same story that I have. Please, I'm going to mute myself because I'm trying not to get in on it.
You need to tell me, because I don't know if I had the same story. I don't know where you go with that one.
Every time we went in there and we had a contract getting the funding, they said, well, we can't do it for you. I had a friend of mine go in, white guy.
Oh.
And let me back up just a little bit, because I hear a lot of people
say,
maybe.
So wait a minute. Let me say this to you. Only because we bought, before I was in the construction because I'm not a construction guy. My background is in business. I work for IBM. I work for a French company called Dassault. So I've always made decent money, and my brothers were in construction. So as I was getting phased out of my job, I asked them, hey, can I become a part of what you're doing? And so I thought they had a business. But because I'm coming from corporate, I think they have a line of credit. I think they have vendor relationships. I think they have all of these different things that you need to be successful in business on a certain level, but they don't. They weren't even incorporated yet. So it took us about a year and a half just to get that in order. But before that, because we had great parents and they lent us money, we had always bought property. So we owned a lot of property, and so we leveraged it. So we never really had to depend on the bank that much for money. So we were able to sustain ourselves because we had some capital to build from. And so when Mrs. Finley is talking about what she's talking about, because I really like how her and her husband built what they built. It's about that family unit is key. It's key because everybody needs a lift off. Our parents gave us that. Right now, I don't know how the youngsters is gonna make it if they don't get a huge lift from somebody, because it's in Oakland. I mean, in California, it's expensive.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, you want to say something, Everett?
No, I was just saying absolutely.
Oh,
the most expensive place, beyond expensive. Yeah.
And so, go ahead, Doug. I'm sorry.
No, and I agree with what you said, man. We have to develop our own financial institution that is going to look at the facts, not the fictitious reasoning why these large corporation banks and etc. won't do any lending.
So Doug, again, back in the days, we had a black bank.
Yes, we did.
We had somewhere to go. I mean, people were lending. So
absolutely.
When the other thing, when we were growing up, you could shake somebody's hand and you knew, for the most part, there's always exceptions, but you knew you were going to get your money back.
Right.
Not today. Typically, you don't get your money back, and it's a lot harder today to make it than it was back then. So we just need to get back to a place where we can trust each other, start building with each other, because there's a lot of wealthy black people still that have land that you could build on. They just need to be able to trust that we're going to do what we say we're going to do.
Absolutely.
Dr. Ashley, can you give us the psychological effect that a black man or woman, when they go home and say, honey, I got this big contract, everything is going good, and they popping champagne, got caviar, rubbing your feet, giving you money going, and you giving him money to get a haircut, and however you got to do it. Then the next day, you go to a bank and you show them this contract. And you know in your heart, if you were white, it would be all right. But when you came out of that bank, you felt, I know I felt, I'm black, they trying to set me back. Tell us the psychological effect that it has not only on that man or woman, but how they have go home and they have to let the air out of the tire. Honey, I hope you didn't drink all that champagne, that $1,000. I got to take that back. And did you get your feet done? But the psychological effect that occurs to black people facing these kind of obstacles.
Well, I think I'm going to quote my favorite poem, what happens to a dream deferred, right? By Langston Hughes, and this idea of, when you do have a true partnership and you're striving for collective goals, and this idea of when we have expectations for something to work out, and then we lift our foot up and we're waiting for the groundedness of that step, and then we fall. And what happens when we have strength in falling and getting back up, and resilience building, but sometimes too, we can expect the failure, the devastation, right? So many of us can relate to the feeling of having the rug being pulled from underneath us, and understanding that the journey may be harder for us than it is for others, but keeping that hope, keeping that union strong, keeping this, but again, failure, especially when it's outside of our locus of control, it's infuriating. Right? It's infuriating. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I thought you were finished. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And I just wanted to just highlight that of when we are striving together and then someone has the power to derail, even if it's temporary. Now we don't just stay there in that defeat, because it's, again, Maya Angelou said, we may encounter defeats, but we must not be defeated. So the idea is that we get back up and we re-strategize, and we're doing that even, look, from a century on. We've been derailed again for Black Wall Street, but here we are still resilient. We're still here. And those dreams, we're trying to carry them generationally. But the idea is that over time we get tired. And as Mrs. Finley stated, again, when we talk about just having a life that's joyful, we want certain liberties, right? We have dreams. I see a comment here that was talking about, what did the people in Tulsa say? It's traumatic. It is traumatic. We're talking about traumatic experiences, right? And then when we talk about repeated traumas of loss, rebuilding, our teammates that go through that with us, our support systems, they can really help us rebuild and understand and validate those experiences. But sometimes too, that traumatizing, there can be the collective trauma, right? So I think our people, while we're resilient, many of us too, especially my generation, are like, here we go again. We've heard our parents talk about these things. We've heard about the predatory lending. Just even recently, we talk about real estate in 2008, and then look at where the real estate market is, not just in the state of California, but I'm aware of what's going on in the Oakland Bay Area, and again, the cash offers and the multiple offers and asking prices. And I mean, these are things my peers and I are talking about, and my parents are, they had their dreams for me, and they, so again, over time, we know that our efforts will be fruitful, but it's draining, and we have to acknowledge that. We can handle the struggle. However, sometimes we're like, it shouldn't have to be this way. We don't want it to be this way. Why is it still this way? So I just wanted to offer that.
Everett, I cut you off. Please. Everett, he was going to say something. Then Lynn, can you finish up, please? I'm sorry, Everett.
I just wanted to chime in that you're right, talking about wealth and our generational wealth and property. Just in April, just wanted to say this, and it's a reality because we're all living it. Our houses, new home prices went up 20% in April. 20%. That's the most jump ever in the last 33 years in 1 month. 20%. And I know that just looking at my particular property, and that's the reality. I was wondering why things was coming to my house saying it was worth this X amount of dollars. I was going, something's wrong with this. This is not right. And I kept seeing it. Then I read the news. Said, oh, that's what's going on, and it's real. And so in saying all of that, I shared with you guys a couple of weeks ago how a Black person's property getting an appraisal, how it was so much lesser in a 7-month period. They had an appraisal of a home in Indianapolis that was $125,000, then $110,000 within a 2-month period. 2 months later, they had the third appraisal done, and they took out all of their African pictures, had a white person go over there, act like it was his home, and the house was appraised at $259,000, twice the value of the same house. So you got to deal with, even when you own property and you have value, which a lot of us do, you won't get the same appraisal that a white person with that same property that you have will get. And that's what most Black people don't even know that. They don't have it's just so many things that is constantly that we have to deal with, that you have to understand how to play the game and know how to play the game. And that's my whole goal with is teaching people how to play the game. Because in every industry, you got to know how to play the game. And that's what I want to give to everybody. That's the one thing that I learned and always have known is how to play the game in all levels. Because I network and I utilize my network. And because of that, I know how to play the game.
Go ahead, Lynn.
I love that, because what Dr. Ashley talked about is, we're not going to be defeated. We can't be defeated.
Absolutely.
Here's what I think this program is all about. We all know about all these negative things that have happened and continue to happen. Yes. What are the solutions? How do we move it forward? Let's move it. We all have some things that we don't like, and things are still happening. With the bank, I'm trying to refinance some property right now, and then they come and tell me that they need to do a full appraisal. I said, why would you need to do a full appraisal when the loan I'm trying to get, our property is 3 times that? So what would you need to do? I said, that's some predatory stuff, and I don't appreciate it.
Straight predatory.
So what I appreciate about what you just said, Everett, is play the game. Life is a game.
Absolutely.
How do you play it and win it? And so what we're trying to do is show these youngsters and whoever else takes the Construction Resource Center course, or whenever we talk to whoever we're talking to, how do you win? What's the solution?
Yes, sir.
We need to come up with solutions, and let's make it happen, because we got to figure out how we work together. And typically when I get a group together and how I disperse that group, I start talking about money. As soon as I start talking about money, then it's an issue. So, but if we don't have money and if we don't have trust, then what do we have? So you got to start with the elephant in the room, and typically it's always money. You start with that, figure out what people need to do to put up some money so that we can make some moves and make some things happen. And if we can figure out solutions to all these issues we're talking about, then, we're starting to make some headway.
I would like to thank you, Lynn, for saying that, because we all know the problem. And I've had some commentary from some white people say, hey, why you always jumping on white people? Well, let me be clear for those who ask me that and who are watching. 2 of my nephews are white. My best friend, I have a white best friend. I know you heard that, but in reverse. It's not about being against white people. It's not. This show has nothing to do with being against white people. What this show is spotlighting is 2 things. Give us the same playing field as you would give your white brothers and sisters, and watch what we do.
Absolutely.
Second, and most important, stop playing with us. Stop playing with us, because y'all playing with us. And let me tell you something. You got Lynn, CRC, who's laying out the facts, and I love your class and I love your program. And you got the gladiators, Everett Butler and Doug Blackshear, who are going to teach people who look like us. Don't die on your belly, die on your feet, because our families, our children, our grandchildren, they're watching. And just think, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, you could have been hung, could have had your feet cut off. All you got to do is hunker down and not have some cable for a couple of months or a couple of, man up, woman up. There's a fight going on. And this is not a white or black fight. This is a humanitarian fight. If they can't even get it right in the Constitution that we are a human being, we're not 3/5, but we're one whole human, there's a big fight going on. I'm sorry, I get carried. I get that Malcolm X moment.
Nothing wrong with that, bro. It's
Mrs.
about
Finley, Lynn, what happened to Ken Houston? You unmute yourself.
Is he trying to get in?
We hadn't seen him.
Okay, all right. Let me text him.
Okay, we're working with 17 minutes. I'd like to thank Magnolia Engineering and Construction, one of the few Black woman-owned engineering companies in the nation. They rolled out their new webpage today, and it's magnificent. We also want to give you a quick news report in regards to, any of you get a chance, I want you to Google an article that has something to do with the NFL and how they're treating their black players. White players can get certain advantages, and I'm not clear on the story. It just came across and someone asked me to mention it. But black players make the NFL. Can you imagine if there was no black players out there at the NFL? That'd be a sight to see. The patronage would not be as high. We have some very talented black football players out there. And when they get injured or they get sick, they should have the same resources that the white players have. So when you get a chance, check it out, read it, and then we can discuss that further next show. Mrs. Finley, since we're working with 16 minutes, can you take a few minutes and wrap it up on how our listeners can appreciate the League of Black Women? First, how we can help them move forward, patronize, read about, and those Black people who are out there in positions of authority. When you see the League of Black Women, our sister, Miss Sandra Finley, when she's out there, stand up for her. Don't hide in the bathroom when she come in. Walk out and walk her into that VP or that vice president or the president of that company and say, hey, this sister knows some sisters who can make some sister bids. Go ahead, Mrs. Sandra Finley.
Well, I want to thank you all, for the privilege of being in this close circle of thought and hope and vision. That is what I've heard in our time together. I'm going to do a league thing for us now. We've described situations and we've described the realities that we've been encountering, and we've given some insights, shared some insights on here's what you do about that. It sounds to me that if I was doing the league research, I would say that the voices are asking for more power. The voices are asking for more power. Mm-hmm. And if the voices are asking for more power, then the voices need to learn we have to generate our power that we want. So it seems to me that we are at a place now, we've gone as far as we can in the systems that are present in front of us. Now, there are some of us here who know how to still get some more out of the systems that are. And we should not leave anything behind. We should do that. Not leave anything behind. But for the ambition, and this is right on target for who you are and how you've come to be in this generation, that you are, what you've seen, and what you've been able to do because of the contributions of previous generations and where you're going, you simply have to take over the game, right? Learning how to play the game is important. When that game that you learn how to play does not yield the prize, then you must take over the game. And you will find that the people of our times have more than enough for being able to figure out how we're going to do this. I was joking with somebody talking about how Black folks are suffering under the oppression of credit rating systems. And it came to me just as I was just happy in that conversation. I said, we need a new credit rating system that we create. Oh, Black in the folk. Where we create our own system and our own system, our own algorithms for how we look at one another to determine what we're going to invest in each other. A need for our construction companies to become developers, cluster together, become developers. We need relationships. You're right. You don't get treated right at the banks, but most of us aren't really in the bank. We are at the teller window. Or perhaps we're sitting at a desk with somebody who used to be a loan officer, but now it's just a processor of paper. But do you know the CEO of the bank? Do we know who's on the board? Have we worked at those levels? Because you get a very different conversation with those kinds of relationships. And
Absolutely.
one meeting that I was privileged to be in, I was sitting there talking about something that our community wanted to do. But it turns out one man sitting to the left of me was introduced. He was one of the founders of the Community Bank of Lawndale on the west side of Chicago way back in the day. And I said, oh my goodness, I'm sitting here next to a brother who birthed out a bank.
That's real. That's real.
And please learn how to incorporate in such a way so that you can sell stock, so that we can buy as regular people a share of what it is that you are doing and that you want to see come to fruition. And finally, for helping the League of Black Women, keep talking to us. Go to our League webpage and donate to us, not because we're broke, but because we are wealthy with the future.
Yes, indeed.
Please think about it that way. The
Yeah.
promise of what it is that we are trying to bring forth is going to be a game changer. Now, what does that look like? I was on one of these conversations, a virtual conversation with a woman from a big investment banking company, and she said, "Well, tell me, who is the League of Black Women?" That's what she said. Now, I knew she had read all the stuff that you can read, but that's respectful, but that wasn't what she was asking. I said, "Let me tell you exactly who we are. We are that team that was sitting in the back of a pharmaceutical company called Moderna that nobody cared about until COVID struck.
Wow. All right.
We are the vaccine. That is who we are."
I love
And
it.
that
I
is
like
who you are.
I
That
like
is who you are. We are now relevant. You are now relevant. We're all hungry for what you bring and what you do and what changes you'll make in our community. I am honored to have the opportunity to get to know you. Thank you, Doug. Thank all of you. And
Thank
finally,
you. Thank you.
know this. We are unstoppable.
Exactly. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. We didn't get Ken Houston on, and Mrs. Finley, you've got to come back and keep us abreast on how you are making a difference in our community. We want to thank Mrs. Sandra Finley out of Chicago, Illinois. And from my understanding, you aren't just the CEO and president of the League of Black Women, you are a city council person.
Right. I am actually a trustee of the Village of Olympia Fields, Illinois.
Okay, you are in
Which is a pretty
politics.
special place. I invite all of you to come here and enjoy the magic of Olympia
Well,
Fields.
I do my homework, so I heard I heard that again. I heard you are deeply involved in making a difference in your community, and we want to thank you for coming on the show today and extend a hand out to you. From my understanding, your son, who is a hell of a businessman, will be joining our show in a couple weeks, and I can't wait. He and his new wedded wife, my cousin, are going on a honeymoon in June this month, so we look forward to having him on the show, and thank you. We're working with 8 minutes left. Kim Harris, who is coaching me to manage my time better. We want to definitely give our props out. If you can give a quick bio on Ken Houston, Lynn, that would be great. A couple minutes, and then we're going to start wrapping up. But thank you, Mrs. Sandra Finn. I'm gonna call her leader now. I owe her dinner.
Yeah, well, I'll try to do Ken justice, but Ken, he co-founded an organization called Beautification Council a few years ago, and what they do is go out and clean up encampments, and they clean off graffiti. And he employs the homeless to do it. Wow. So he's gotten funding from the county, from the city, from the state, to employ homeless individuals to start to teach them a trade. And how it couples around to us is because Ken helped us develop the books that we have for Construction Resource Center. He uses the books to help his employees, the homeless individuals, to get this trade, and they start to keep daily reports. They start to use that material so that it gives them a little bit more insight into how the business works. So not only do they work for him in the field, but he actually helps them understand the management side of that. Ken also, before he started this, he actually went and lived for 1 week, if you can believe it, 1 week in a homeless camp.
Wow.
He didn't do anything. He did everything the homeless individuals would do for 1 week. So that was pretty incredible. So maybe next time, if he has the time, we'll have him back on and he can talk.
Oh yeah, no, I want to have him back because this story is interesting. And also what we are doing, we're spotlighting our Black military vets. And we have one that came across that I have really got to shine a light on. I'd like to introduce a past member of the military, having served the United States Army, Captain John Badger, owner of Barbarian Sport Fishing. one of the few, if not the only, black fishing excursion companies in the Bay Area here. His business has been around for 20 years, since the year 2000. Captain Badger is out of fishing, his Barbarian Sport Fishing, located at the Marina Bay Yacht Harbor in Richmond. We want on this show, if nothing else, we beat up on, Everett beats up on the military. Go Everett, knock them out, man. If I got the military, I'm gonna call you. That's my Marines right there.
Yes,
Everett,
sir.
the military defeater.
Yes, sir.
We have some brothers and sisters who have been in the military, and even through the racism, the humiliation, the deaths, and there have been deaths in the military of black people, and they have not been accounted for. So I'm going to put that out there. But this gentleman, you can book a fishing excursion on his crew, fishing cruise, on Father's Day, Ladies' Day, birthdays, etc. Hurry, as halibut and striped bass are in season right now. Salmon is coming up June 26th. His company is a black-owned business, and I've been on quite a few of those fishing excursions. I don't know how many of you have been on those fishing excursions, but I find myself looking at all white people running the fishing trips. This is a brother who served his time in the military, who is local here. So if you're in the Bay Area and you want to advance black businesses in non-traditional fields, look up Badger. Let me get the name. My computer went out, so I had to get off my phone. Look it up off of Badger. Let me make sure I got it correctly, because I was shocked when I saw that. Okay, and I think I lost my phone too, but we want to make sure that he gets his acknowledgement out. He's located in the Richmond area, and the number is 510-450-4237. I talked to this gentleman, and he says, "Man, if my business grow, so will my sponsorship. So I'm all in." And he says, "I'm all in to win." So, and you're out in the Bay Area and you want to go on a wonderful fishing trip with a black-owned business that is in a non-traditional industry, make sure that you call John Badger of Barbarian Sport Fishing, Captain John Badger. We're working with 3 minutes left. I want to say that, first off, Dr. Ashley, we're gonna have to start sending you a check, because every time you talk, I just go, I get off the podcast and go thank our
Therapy. Pure therapy. Pure therapy. Pure therapy.
Thank you
Finley,
again.
keep doing. Oh yes, no, thank you. Really, thank you. Mrs. Finley, thank you for coming on the show today. We really appreciate your input. Your perspective in regards to what our sisters are doing out here is invaluable, and we appreciate it. We hope you come back. We want you to come back. I'll throw in a couple of dinner for two if you come back. Lynn,
all right.
You know, and I know what we went through to be where we are today. And all those big white companies that decides to pick on subcontractors, look at Lynn Turner and look at Blackshear for AMG. All you did was piss us off and made us come back with an army network so we can stop you from doing these horrible things. And to my co-host, to my brother, to my gladiator brother, if you look on my Facebook page, you'll see, I haven't been up there because I don't want you guys to make me look too bad. I've been up in the hills. I think you see me chopping those trees down.
That's right. That's what we do. Family. It's family. All about family. Family strong. That's what I say.
I want to say this in front of everybody who's on this panel. I love you, man. I love you for the fight that you have in you. And sometimes when you're taken down, When a dog's taking down a big bear, when you get two pit bulls like Everett Butler and Doug Blackshear, you're going down. You're going down like a clown.
Right. That's right. That's how we was raised. That's
all right. We thank all of you for joining us today. And we're going to be putting up a website to where we can hear and talk about some of the businesses that are the Black businesses that are going to rise up like a phoenix in the ashes. And all this coronavirus and devastation of Black businesses, they're going to stand tall.
Yes, sir.
So all, a good night. Thank you.
Family.